Kalisha, Gutierrez, Torrey, and Hill. What year is it, guys?
Why don't you tell us what year it is, you sack of flip?
We're not doing that anymore. Today, news of today. That Chris Paul didn't go crazy. That Chris Paul went Chris Paul.
Foul on the play.
Also, those Cowboys didn't go crazy. Those Cowboys went Cowboys. And that horse, well, he kind of went crazy, but he had a man on his back and a push in his way. What do you want from me? He's okay. He's okay. He's okay. I have no idea if he's okay.
Never show.
Hey now. All right, no robot from Pablo Torre today. But maybe if there's time, he can give us just a little bit more of teenage Pablo. I don't want to date you though, Pablo, but teenage Pablo.
Nobody really wanted to date me either, to be honest. Oh, God.
All right, I'm keeping April Fool's edition. Do not erase on my DVR. Well done to Pablo and everyone else not named Kalisha, Gutierrez, and Hill. Let's go around the horn.
It's the first word.
41-17 for Chris Paul. And a win less than 24 hours after his corpse exhumation and exhumation. But also, of course, this with Cayman. And that with Big Baby. And all of it preceded by this. Hello! Whether it be inadvertent or advertent or just vertent, either way, a road we've been on once or twice before with Paul so hard. Jamel, what was your takeaway from Paul's night?
Well, my takeaway was that this is the reason why Chris Paul remains third in the MVP tracking on Basketball Reference. Look, they needed this game for a lot of reasons, for playoff positioning. And Chris Paul, I think he ought to send a thank you note to Steph Curry, because I think him being embarrassed by Steph Curry being put on skates probably added a little
defibrillated him a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it did. I mean, certainly there was a lot on the line for the Clippers regardless of that, but that just put just the right amount of, as we call it, stank on it so that Chris Paul can come out
but
and
you're ignoring a certain scenario that unfolded with Mr. Cayman there. Let's go to Kalisha for a second. Paul so hard, the way that played out. When you were watching it, what did you see?
I think Paul is extremely quick, and he tried to get away with a little something there that he has gotten away with before, and he did get away with it. Cayman
or hasn't gotten away with it in college.
Well, this time he did, because Cayman was the one who got penalized for the play. But the game itself, I think it was a situation where the playoffs are right around the corner. Nobody's really talking about the Clippers as having one of the best chances in the West. He's trying to show it that can still happen, especially after the fans, the Warrior fans there were in his own building were chanting for Curry the night before. And Curry and Harden and Westbrook have all gained more MVP notice than he has.
Israel.
Listen, he's a serial checker. We know that, okay? But this one in particular, Chris Paul, didn't seem like he did it on purpose, all right? He was kind of turning around looking to sort of fend off Chris Cayman. Just so happens to be Chris Cayman's a bigger man than he is, and, he caught him in the wrong place. And I thought, here's what my takeaway from that is more so whether that was inadvertent or not, is the reaction from the rest of the Clippers. Because, yeah, Big Baby kind of came to the rescue a little bit. But where's Blake Griffin? Like, Blake Griffin was playing peacemaker the entire time. But most of these guys, they get technical fouls for arguing against, Blake Griffin non-calls or what have you. Go get a technical foul for that. Protect your guy. Even Charles Oakley tweeted about it. I didn't like that. Was a
and
bad
Pablo,
look,
your takeaway from Chris Paul's night.
Yeah, what happened there was kind of the most NBA fight sequence I've seen in a very long time. You have Chris Paul. By the way, Izzy should be hired as Chris Paul's lawyer. Chris Paul, you're watching this show. That's the most convincing defense I've heard yet. I still don't believe it, but it's convincing. You have Chris Paul doing that. Chris Cayman pushing him, then immediately walking away in the other direction, not even looking at him. And then you had Big Baby coming over, making the show of physical force, only to be knocked over and left by himself staring up at the ceiling. That is an NBA collection of activities if I've ever seen it.
Jamel Hill back in.
Hey, look, let me recorrect myself. I totally believe that Chris Paul definitely tried to hit him in the old bits and pieces. He's got the track record, that's for sure. And I granted, I'm not the foremost expert, but I like to think most people are aware of that region.
It was the old, how's your father? Okay. Oh, inadvertent mute on Israel. I had no idea what happened there. We'll move on. Headline 2. Hard 51. Makes it day 64 of this MVP race, which has you people yo-yoing. Steph Curry murked Chris Paul the other night. Curry was MVP. Harden the interruption last night. He's MVP. A panelist on next year's show yesterday reminded us he voted for Michael Westbrook for MVP. Michael Westbrook. Israel, what does Harden's 51 mean for the real MVP race of 2015?
That was such an advertent mute. Listen, as a member of the NBA voting society here, got word today that I am voting once again on everything. I do think that James Harden, he will. If I voted today, I'm voting for James Harden. I think James Harden, like, you can look at the, all the advanced numbers. You can talk to me about plus minus, real plus minus, everything else. James Harden, to me, seems to be doing more with less. I mean, that team is James Harden. He doesn't even have his real second guy, his wingman in Dwight Howard there, and he's still putting. Now, these numbers that he's putting up late in the season, that's for the voters. Now, that's not him saying that, but that's essentially for the voters. Listen, if you've sort of ruled me out, here's 50, here's 40, here's a triple-double. I mean, he's had a phenomenal season, and the 51 just kind of brings it to our attention. I think he should be MVP.
And that was the one voice in this program that has the right to vote for everybody, and he's voting for everything. What a humble brag to Gutierrez. Pablo, get in there.
I'm not in Izzy's NBA Illuminati, which I just learned about now. But I do agree with him. I agree that James Harden's cast of characters around him is nowhere close to what Steph Curry's working with. I will also admit, by the way, that until we actually get together, or the Illuminati gets together and decides this is what most valuable means, we will have these debates with really no set criteria, so nobody can really be wrong. But Steph Curry has potentially 2 max players in that starting lineup if Draymond Green gets that max contract this summer, plus Klay Thompson and Andre Iguodala on the bench. James Harden has had Dwight Howard.
What people make doesn't really matter. Factor into an MVP race. Is that right, Pablo? I mean, tell me they've got guys who are first-team NBA players or all-stars. Don't tell me that they make a lot of money. Jamel Hill, join us.
No, I agree with both these guys, or disagree rather with both of these guys, even though James Harden is definitely having a very special season. But look, we're not just going to ignore my man Steph Curry. And yes, he does have a little bit more help. And yeah, they're a little bit better team than Houston is. But he's doing a lot of the same things that we're giving everybody else credit for. He's still the best player on his team. And James Harden, I give him all the credit in the world, given the amount of injury time that not only Dwight Howard, but a bunch of people have missed on that team. He's held them in the race. But for me, Steph Curry is still the dude.
And he's played defense this year. Kalishaw after the horn.
What James Harden did last night was tell all the people of Izzy's ilk, you cannot have made up your mind yet. Keep watching what's going on here as he continues to score 50. If Houston finishes second in the West, right behind Golden State, I don't care if it's 10 games behind, Harden's got to be the MVP.
Headline 3. Oh, I waited all show for this. What do Cowboys' latest moves mean? Question mark. Adrian Peterson, come on down. I tell you, a rhetorical question into the Price is Right. I told you he can't pick brackets, but he can still tickle the ivories. Timmy, you say Romo's restructuring is maybe paving the way for Peterson. You say the Cowboys are going for broke. All of that independent of the Vikings still holding Peterson's card. So what position are the Cowboys really in?
I think they're in a position of strength to get him if there is a market, if there's going to be a race to get him. And I still think there will be. I would pay no attention to anything the Vikings say for the next 2 or 3 weeks. They'd be crazy to say anything other than we want Adrian Peterson back. They would diminish his value if they said anything else. But the Cowboys have clearly made moves, 1-year deals, restructuring Romo with things in mind to do better than have Darren McFadden.
So you think there's about 2 or 3 weeks here, and then there's a window where it's possible. Gutierrez, do you agree with that?
I do. I actually spoke to the author of this piece this morning, and he seems pretty knowledgeable on the subject, so I'm going to go ahead and agree with him. I do think that it seems like they're putting themselves in position for this, and for Adrian Peterson's part, him and his agent can make life as difficult as possible on the Minnesota Vikings to sort of force his way out of there. That's sort of a move that works in the NBA, not so much in the NFL, but it's something they can try or continue to try. It's possible, though, that they're looking at a Mike Wallace, Adrian Peterson, Teddy Bridgewater situation, and that's a pretty good trio.
Pablo.
Yeah, going back, remember, this goes back to that story by Don Van Natta way back when, where you have Jerry Jones and Adrian Peterson on the phone. This is predating all of this, including Adrian Peterson's scandal. To me, first off, Tony Romo, everybody owes a debt of thanks in that building to Tony Romo, who continues to be the good soldier for that organization, deferring money and restructuring his contract. But if the Cowboys, or if any team is going to take on the circus that will be Adrian Peterson, might as well be the Cowboys, who not only have the financial room, but also have Greg Hardy in the building already. Their circus considerations have kind of been nullified.
And Jamel.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something to what Pablo said. Could you imagine adding Adrian Peterson to this team? And because of Greg Hardy, Adrian Peterson might actually be a, quote, sympathetic figure. If you're the Vikings, I don't even know why you're fighting so much to hold on to him. Your fan base is still a little dicey with how they receive him. And not only that, the Cowboys got to look at it as how many more productive years does Tony Romo have left? At some point, he's really going to be a notch below where he is right now. So you got to push your chips to the center of the table.
That was two panelists, though, that said they've got Hardy, so bringing in Peterson, well, a spotlight is a spotlight, a circus is a circus. Calishow, is that how you see it?
They always have a circus here in Dallas. This one will be bigger, but Peterson would come with less baggage than Greg Hardy did.
Everything's bigger in Texas. I mean, Calishaw's got 15 points right now. Look at that. Hill 11, Torrey 10, Gutierrez 9. We're taking a break. Myers still next. Coming up, Greg Marshall, not so itchy with Witchy. And Shaka's Commonwealth, maybe being elevated to not so Commonwealth with Texas. Stick around.
Buy or sell.
Texas forever. But they still need a basketball coach. In today's meeting with Shaka Smart going on in Austin, it started in Richmond, all with the potential of making Smart a very rich man. Timmy, would he be a smart man in addition to rich man to take the Texas job?
Yes, he would have to be. There's no reason for this not to be one of the great jobs in the country. It has never quite reached that status. They've had good coaches. They've never had one who's gone to more than one Final Four. I think Shaka Smart could be the guy.
Gutierrez?
Yeah, you look at the history of players coming out of Texas, they're usually pretty good, and sometimes they're really big and really good, and that's really good for college players. But I think you can own the state of Texas. He goes in there. I mean, who are the best teams out there? Baylor, SMU. I mean, who owns Texas right now? I think Shaka Smart can go in there and
just writing down, big and really good is good for college.
Big and really good, yes, yes, yes.
The Illuminati is blinding us today. Tori, how about you?
Look, I will warn Shaka Smart, who I like a lot. I think is tremendous. Money does not insulate you from disaster. One of the things you may think about yourself is why has there not been as much success under Steve Patterson, the AD at Texas? That's a problem. However, the recruiting soil is fertile in Texas. Izzy's actually right. Texas Tech, SMU, Baylor. Move in, take over that state.
No, to ESPN, Pablo doesn't need more money because it does not insulate him from disaster. Go ahead, Jamel Hill.
Let me address what Pablo just said. Look, I've had some good and bad bosses in my time, all of them good here at ESPN, of course. And just because somebody has a reputation of being a bad boss, that doesn't mean they're going to be a bad boss for you. This is important hire for Steve Patterson. I think Shaka Smart is young. He's dynamic. He can certainly turn that program around. They got all the resources, wealthiest athletic department in the nation.
Yeah, well, then there's the other side of it, right? Greg Marshall. Wichita State acting like they're one of the wealthiest in the nation for the third straight year. Salary bump for Marshall when he re-ups with them after getting some interest, maybe offers elsewhere. Good to be Greg Marshall. Is he buy or sell Marshall staying at Wichita State?
Oh, I'm buying him staying. I mean, look, you compare those two programs, and Wichita State's the better one. Unlike Texas, it's really difficult to win at Alabama right now. Anthony Grant was a really good coach. I still think he's a good coach and deserves a job somewhere else. Just couldn't get it done there. It's a difficult place to win right now in basketball.
Yeah, in Greg Marshall's scenario, kind of like Shaka Smart's, it's about quality of life, right? Greg Marshall has won Final Four, undefeated regular season, Sweet 16. All of that has happened in the last 3-4 years. He does not need to go anywhere and just get more raises, by the way, year after year with more jobs.
You think he can win a national championship at Wichita State?
Absolutely.
I think you'd have to say yes. How about you, Jamel?
I think this made a lot of sense, even though Alabama was offering the money. Look, I think in his heart of hearts, Greg Marshall knows that he could probably get a better job. I would not equate the Texas job to the Alabama job because I think it is difficult to win there, even though they're getting more high-profile coaches. If I'm him, I just wait out until the perfect opportunity comes along, and I don't think it's there yet.
Cowshaw.
As the only panelist here who covered a game at Wichita State when Antoine Carr and Cliff Levingston were on the team, that has been a great fan base for many years. I would keep riding this out. Final Four 2 years ago, #1 seed last year, beat Kansas in the tournament. This year, stick with the Shockers.
Buy or sell 3, Dustin Buckland. And while you watch this China in a bull closet cross-check, remember, his Winnipeg Jets are clinging to a 2-point lead for the wild card with 5 to go. You're the NHL Dean of Discipline, Pablo. How are you handling it?
Well, I know he has a phone call interview, so that means he's only going to get 5 games at most, but I would give him more than that. In criminal law, we talk about aggravating factors, right? There are two here at least. One is that he's on the ice already, not even looking. And the other one is it's the neck. Those are two scenarios that are incredibly problematic and very dangerous and must be snapped out.
Oh, what is this, Law and Order? Look, I understand why you need to take this stuff very seriously, but I give him less than 5 games because we have to look at track record too. Yes, granted, he has received fines in the past, but he's never been suspended. And just by the nature, it is a phone conference that lets you know the seriousness in which they take it. Yeah. And it wasn't even assessed a penalty either.
Mm-hmm. That's a terrible hit that has no place in the game. The penalty needs to go into the playoffs. And if that means not suspending him right away, suspend him for the first 5 games of the playoffs if Winnipeg makes it. If they don't make it, it'll be the first 5 games of next season.
No, look, not only was he on the ice, but not only did he hit him in the neck, Pablo, but he also snapped his head back. And what are we talking about we're talking about concussions in the NFL, and it's a serious issue in hockey as well. I think this deserves a face-to-face. Forget that phone call stuff. Forget the texting suspension. Get him a face-to-face meeting and get this guy suspended for more than 5 games. I think that was a terrible hit.
Speaking of needing a face-to-face meeting, Israel?
I don't know what's happening here, but happy anniversary to the second of the Florida men's national championship basketball team.
Oh, my God. This is not your face time, please. All right, take that face and get out of here. Kalisha, Torrey Hill, they got a lightning round next. And coming up, Blatt, blah, blah, Blatt, blah, blah, Blatt, blah, blah, Blatt, blah, blah. It's not unusual to be coached by anyone. LeBron. Sport.
I was dead the first day I was born.
Kalisha, Hill, Torrey, let's kick the fires and light the tires, as they say in old NASCAR circles. Isn't that right? Let's go. By now, you've heard and read Gino Auriemma's comments about men's basketball. The headlines, quote, "It's a joke," quote, "Nobody can score." The response of college basketball Twitter and people of your ilk, very stout, often asking Gino to look at his own sport. You don't need to go there, Timmy, but what did you think of Gino's comments?
The only thing I didn't agree with was he said, I'm just talking as a fan, not Gino Auriemma basketball coach. I think he's always talking as Gino Auriemma basketball coach, but I think he's right about how other sports have gone out of their way to help create offense, and college basketball has let the game go completely the other direction.
Pablo, do you think he's right as well?
I think he has a lot of substance and merit to what he's saying. The guy who I actually value more in terms of opinion is Mike D'Antoni. And inside information, I talked to him at the Sloan Conference among my fellow nerds about this. We talked to Mike D'Antoni about the shot clock in college basketball being 35 seconds, and he just laughs.
Oh, that's Mike D'Antoni. What did you think he was going to do?
But that's why the NBA has changed for the better. It's because they've adopted the speed and the pace.
Right. Jamel Hill?
No, I thought Gino Auriemma was absolutely right. Let's just call it what it is. The only reason he's receiving some backlash from some of the college basketball people is because he coaches the women's game, which some of them consider to be inferior. And it's really funny to me because people have all sorts of opinions about why women's basketball is unwatchable, but yet he offers his opinion, a legitimate one, and all of a sudden it's a problem.
Lightning 2, David Blatt says it's not unusual for a player to call plays. Ergo, LeBron doing it for him, no big deal. LeBron concurs that it's not unusual. Having covered the sport for the last 6 years, Pablo, maybe, yeah? You think it's unusual?
It's only unusual if it's not LeBron, right? If you follow the money here and in Miami, LeBron has always had more leeway. That's who he is. That's what he's getting instead of money because max salaries are capping exactly how much he can make. He has all the power in the world. It's only weird if you forget that he's LeBron James.
Jamel Hill.
No, it is unusual when you consider this dynamic between him and David Blatt. When you consider the fact that he shoved him aside in timeouts. When you consider the fact the earlier reports of Tyronn Lue actually being the one that called the timeouts. Normally I wouldn't say that, but let's just call it what it is. He doesn't trust David Blatt, so he's taking over.
Kalisha, is it unusual?
Jason Kidd basically called all the plays when the Mavericks won a title. There's an ongoing battle between Rondo and Rick Carlisle on who's going to call him. The only strange thing here was the suggestion that Blatt, after LeBron calls the plays, echoes the call himself. That's what seemed odd.
That's true. But you brought up Kidd and Carlisle. It worked in that case, and then you bring up Rondo and Carlisle, and we're seeing it not work so well. Yeah, it's up in the air right now. Pablo Torrey, you're up in the air right now, and you're the next to go with the last word.
What if we go back in time to before this block started and we do this all over again?
I think you could have committed to the robot voice. You could have committed to the robot voice there a little bit more. Shaw Hill, that's going to be our showdown next. Straight ahead.
Fabian Square wandering around. And look at Jim the Rider. Oh, and Louis Ferguson takes the horrible ball.
But he's okay, we say again, with accuracy. No time for the jibber jabber. Hill and Shaw, good luck to one of you. Showdown 1, this is Wrigley Field's Hot A. Cubs opening up the season versus the Cardinals Sunday night, 3 days from now. Good luck, Kalisha.
Horrible look. Joe Madden thought he had left ugly stadiums in his rearview mirror when he left Tampa. He stumbled into another. It'll look better maybe by July, but not now.
Yeah, but anybody who's ever had any work done on their house, they can totally identify with this story. There's no way this stuff is ready. I just hope it doesn't present any safety concerns.
Did everybody see how self-satisfied Kalisha was when he delivered that Joe Madden thought he knew ugly stadiums line? Point to Hill. Showdown 2.
That was.
This jockey fell, which we again preface by saying he is okay. So the question is, who or what do you blame? The jockey? The horse? Or the fact that this sport involves shrubbery in a race with 1,000-pound beasts, Jamel?
Well, I guess I'm going to have to blame the jockey. It looked like they were slightly dismounting before this happened. But credit to him. I mean, he said he only woke up with only had a sore head. So I don't imagine how that happened. I'm just glad my man walked away from
Credit to the shrubbery. You need those shrubberies in that race. I don't blame the horse. He made it over. What is the jockey doing leaving the horse?
It's an interesting
Not him,
hot
I'm
take.
sorry.
Just not today's hot take. Jamel Hill, take your FaceTime, quick.
All right, I read with interest a New York Times post, or rather New York Post story about how Carmelo Anthony can't even be bothered to sit there and watch the Knicks games because he's too afraid of getting injured. That's right, something we've never seen happen. This dude is not going to sit courtside with his own teammates because he's afraid of being hurt. That's what you paid $124 million for, Knicks fans. I feel sorry for you.
Well, what he said, right, is that he's afraid of a hustling player running into him.
And
What is a hustling Knicks player?
Nobody's hustling.
Maybe Alexi's taking a basketball.
23.5-hour break. We'll see you tomorrow.
Look alive. Shane Larkin's coming.
Geico presents Strange Saving Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
ESPN Radio.
With the action on the court, the diamond, or the gridiron.
Comes alive.
The NBA.
The San Antonio Spurs are the world champions.
Major League Baseball.
San Francisco Giants are the champions of the baseball world.
The new college football playoff.
College football playoff national champion, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Your home for the best in sports play-by-play.
ESPN Radio.
Two of baseball's best go head-to-head in interleague action when the Tigers head to St. Louis to face the Cardinals.
That one is gone.
The pregame at 7 Eastern, first pitch at 8, Sunday on ESPN and ESPN Radio.